Salutations, folks. So, last night I saw The Nightingale, and it is worth talking about, so let's do it. The Nightingale is a 2018 film. I believe it came out fall of 2 years ago, and I just saw it last night. Holy shit. It it's a rough one. If you've heard anything about The Nightingale, well, it's that it's a very hard film to watch, and it is. Don't get me wrong, incredibly well crafted, but pretty much masochistic to watch, especially in Act 1. Act 1 of this film is beyond brutal. It is just unsettling in a very, very intense way. You have to give your protagonist a reason to go on the warpath in a revenge story so that you can feel empathy for your protagonist and you understand where they're coming from. And the inciting incident in this film, I could try to explain to you how I feel having seen it about 24 hours ago, but instead I'm going to show you what I thought when I first saw it. After the inciting incident in this story, I paused the film, and this is what I thought about it.
Fuck. Alright, that is one hell of an inciting incident. About 30 minutes into the film, and holy shit, that was not cool. I remember watching John Wick and thinking, you know, that's an inciting incident for a revenge tale. John Wick ain't shit. Damn. Son of a bitch. I kind of hope that's, the max level of intensity, but given that, we're in Act 1 right now, I really doubt that's going to be the case.
Yeah. Good old MCR blanket coming in handy last night. So after that recording, I went to my kitchen, poured myself a ginger ale with a shot of vodka in it, and proceeded to do about 5-10 minutes of yoga before returning to the film. Alright, so for the next 10 seconds, spoiler warning is in effect. Okay? 3, 2, 1, spoilers. If you are sensitive to scenes depicting rape and murder, you might just not be capable of watching The Nightingale. It is horrific, but it's necessary to the film. Now, there's a lot of talk out there about the graphic, horrific nature of the violence in this film, but this film is by no means a 2.5-hour long bloodfest. It's not a Kill Bill. I'm pretty sure the film has a lesser body count than The Revenant, but when people do die in this film, it is hard to stomach. Flaws are few and far between in The Nightingale, but if I were to criticize one aspect based on my first viewing, it would be that it felt a little bit long. Not egregiously, but it just felt like it slowed down a little bit, mostly in the second act. Acts 1 and 3 are completely captivating, but there's a little bit of time in the middle for me where it just didn't feel like it was moving as quickly as I thought it would. In future viewings, this may turn out to not be an issue for me anymore, but upon my first experience with the film, I found it a little bit slow for my taste. Now, that's not to say that I need all my films to crank right through the plot points and wrap up in 90 minutes or anything like that. I just feel like this film is approximately 2.5 hours, and it just didn't feel like it needed to be. I will say though, it's been about 24 hours since I've watched The Nightingale, and looking back, I can't pick out any segment in the film where I said, you know what, that specifically didn't need to be here. Maybe I just wasn't patient enough. Because I mean, it is worth noting, like I mentioned before, after the inciting incident, I had one shot of vodka, and I normally don't drink much at all, but I normally don't drink and watch films, especially for the first time, and I've never drank during a film and then been bold enough to put a review of it online. So maybe my state of not sobriety influenced my sort of perception of how fast the film was going, so I'll just put that out there as a little caveat to my criticism for the film. If I were to pick out two things specifically that I absolutely adored about The Nightingale, the first would be just the vision that's put out there. So often now when I go to the movies, I'll watch, these big blockbuster films, or even films that aren't necessarily the big summer blockbusters, but they're still made to be moneymakers, they still have that studio involvement where it just doesn't feel like an artist collaborated with other artists to make it. It feels like an artist collaborated with other artists and then got permission from people who are trying to protect their investment and made art based on what they could get permission to do and what would make a profit and whatnot. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like Jennifer Kent said, you know what, I have an idea, I wrote a script, I'm gonna direct this film, it is gonna be motherfucking fantastic, I'm gonna make it, people might like it, a lot of people probably won't, but those who do like it will really appreciate it, and that's what this story is made for. And I respect that a lot. I might not be in a hurry to re-watch the film. I'll let it marinate for probably another year or two before I go back and see it again. But I definitely appreciate this as a solid piece of art that I think a lot of people should see, even though, there are a lot of people who might not be able to handle some of the scenes in this film, but it's art that deserves to be seen, and I feel like a lot of people should see it. Something else that I really appreciated about the film is, this is a revenge tale, right? Now, revenge tales walk a very fine line for me thematically. On the one hand, you have revenge tales like Kill Bill, where something horrific happens and our protagonist has to right the wrongs that were committed, and so they decide to slaughter every sumbitch involved in the tragic event that happened to them, and likely many more people who happen to be affiliated with the individuals who fucked them over. Now, don't get me wrong, I really like films like Kill Bill and John Wick, but for me, what makes a good revenge film is that the violence doesn't provide catharsis. And that's something that this film just nails. You know, I'm not going to spoil anything here, but so pardon me if I speak kind of vaguely here, but at no point in this film do you ever feel good about watching violence. You obviously don't feel good when violence happens to good people, and you don't feel good, at least I didn't, when violence happens to bad people, you know what I mean? It's just violence. And, you know, this film, it does a really good job at illustrating consequences of violence and different ways in which violence happens and why the reason violence happens matters. And I think it does it in a really, really nice way. Also, I'd like to mention that they really nail the ending to this film. I'm not gonna spoil anything here, but I'm a sucker for a really, really good ending, you know? I mean, we all like our films to end well, but sometimes the film ends and you're just like, you know what? You could not have ended your film better. It might not be the best ending of all time, you know, because there can only be one, but for the film that you made, you nailed it. And this film nails it. Alright, so, The Nightingale. That is a film that I won't soon forget. I'd like to say I hope that you go out and watch it, but I really do advise that you try to investigate the film a little bit and make sure you can handle it before getting into the film. But if you feel like you understand what you're getting into and you can handle that, strongly, strongly recommend you give this film a chance. So, until next time, auf Wiedersehen.